Welcome back. You're watching the Bharat Progress Report 2025 on Newsx. I'm Rishabh Gulati. We have been compiling 101 milestones for India, by Indians, for all the progress that we need to make towards Mission Viksit Bharat 2047. Where have we gotten? It's an important collection that gets put together, 101 points. We have covered the first 30 odd across 3 categories, 10 categories in total. Let's pick up category number 4, which is the most picturesque one because it's infrastructure. Have a look, point number 31 on your screens. This, ladies and gentlemen, you'll recognize as the Chenab Railway Bridge. It was inaugurated in 2025. It's the world's highest railway bridge, which is a single span arc, 359 meters above where the Chenab River is running at the bottom of this valley. 1.3 kilometers long, but it's just not about the design or the durability of the engineering. It's about what it represents. There now exists something called the Udhampur Srinagar Baramulla rail link. Let me jump on that with Sumit Peer before Dikshu Kukreja also joins us. Sumit, I'll discuss the design part with Dikshu, but the significance is not just about the bridge. It's about what it represents. What does it represent?
Rishabhji, thank you for having me on your show. Well, the bridge represents the engineering capability of India, the zeal to connect, the mission impossible, which was considered could never be done because you could not build such a railway bridge, the vision and the mission to get J&K, Srinagar, Jammu and Ladakh connected to the India, the movement of army, the movement of logistics, the movement of goods transport economy, and connecting those people to the mainstream India, because trail is the most viable and the fastest way of travel. So when you are doing that, you are breaking that glass wall, and multiple glass walls which were there existent and which were believed to be could never be achieved. One of them being the biggest of them being the 370. So it was not only the abrogation of 370. After that, you have done a lot of measures wherein the things have been kind of joined, wherein all the things have been made mainstream. Today, from Srinagar, you can get into a train and reach Delhi as from pretty much any part of the world. And there was a time when you had heavy snow, the roads were cut, the flights were not taking off, and we were by Kashmir पिछले 30 दिन से कटा हुआ. J&K has been cut off for last 10 days, 20 days, for last 21 days. Those days are gone. And if you look at the Manali circle, if you look at the multiple tunnels which have been built around Ladakh, that's another engineering marvel. So Ladakh is not cut.
Okay. So let me get Dikshu in, because of course the tunnels are not the prettiest in terms of you look at them and you want to go, wow, let's take a photograph. But yes, the Pir Panjal Railway Tunnel, Syama Prasad Mukherjee Tunnel, the Atal Tunnel, the Zojila Pass Tunnel is coming your way very shortly. That will punch through what took 4 or 5 hours, perhaps longer, into 4 or 5 minutes. But let me get Dikshu into this conversation. Dikshu, it's not just about the fact that the infrastructure is being made. It's very nice to say longest and highest and tallest, but the number of them that are being done, it's not a one-off. The speed with which they are being done, the lives that they are changing, that's the real story.
I couldn't agree with you, Rishabh, more than that, because it is really about a dream which is turning into a reality. And that is about how India is transforming where the world is looking around at awe at which things are happening here. Now, if we were to put into perspective the Chenab River Bridge that you just spoke about, few years back, even flyovers around dotting the Delhi urban landscape would take years to build. Delays were just sort of considered the normal. And here we have this kind of an engineering feat, a marvel that has been created. Look at the kind of geography in which it has come up. So those kind of engineering capabilities which are now really becoming realistic. Me as an architect and urban planner, we would have ideas on paper, but to see them happen would be very frustrating because it would take time, there would be budget overruns, and these were not things the world looked at with admiration towards us. But today, things have really changed. And when you talk about this list of 101 that you just opened your program with, I must say that I'm sure if we delve deeper, that list is going to be even far beyond 101 because
we've had to cherry pick. It's an opportunity to cherry pick, which is nice. So let me move on to number 32. Vande Bharat Express trains. It was such a big deal just a few years ago. 164 of these are now operational, Sumit. It's becoming normal now.
Yeah.
It's not something special, Sumit.
Rishabhji, Vande Bharat is, when you thought of an Indian train couple of years back, 10 years back at least, you will have that concept of will be an overcrowded general class. You will have a ticket for, AC 3 tier, but people will still come into the, cabins. The toilets will be dirty. The railway stations will be shabby. Things will be pretty bad. You have to some way survive that journey. That was a normal conception, and we all grew looking at that. But then came when railway started streamlining and all. Then we used to all talk and fancy about, oh, I went to Europe and I was into this Euro rail. A Euro rail is like this. It's like this. I went into a metro and we saw something like this. Now, when you have this Vande Bharat for a common Indian, traveling in a train which is clean, which has bio toilets, which arrives on time, which has one of the fastest speeds, which the food gets delivered, things get delivered. And when you look at the standards, when you look at the amenities, it's far better than Eurorail. It's much better than the American railways, most of the European railways. And when you look at the price is literally peanuts. When you look at the cost of a kilometer, how much you pay with those kind of amenities, it is pretty cheap. So it has also brought down the rush on the air travel.
Okay.
It has kind of released those bus fares and a lot of people using their own cars. A convenient way of traveling with the world-class standard is Vande Bharat.
Okay. Launched February 15, 2019. In 2025, the 164th train was launched. So that's the point, that this is not special. It's not a one-off. It becomes the new normal. Let's pick up point 33 and 34. India's telecom subscriber base hit 1.2 billion people in 2025, which means if you take away the kids under 15, every single person in India now has either a smartphone or a feature phone, or at least a phone number in their name. The number of 5G mobile subscribers, this is point 34, has hit 394 million, which means 1 in 3 of those who have a mobile phone have a 5G data connection with it. Dikshu Kukreja, I mean, we just take it absolutely for granted that this conversation, most of our work, everything is happening on some connected device.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have now sort of glided, I would say, into a digital world. And when you say maybe that small population of under 15, I would probably put it under 5 years old, because anybody and everybody in India today that you see has a phone, and this phone is not just a mere talking device. It is today become the source of economy, the source of business and livelihood for so many people. It's a means of communication every which way. And yes, Smart G connections and the staggering number that you're talking about, almost, I would say, close to the entire population of Europe. That's the kind of number you have mentioned, the larger than the population of United States. So if those are the numbers of 5G users in India, it tells a story about India which is fast progressing, and India which is actually really embraced digitization.
I just mentioned this, that the average median data consumption per month per user is now 24 GB, which is almost 1 GB per day. Okay. So you're talking about 1.2 billion people on average consuming 1 GB per day at roughly 3 US cents per GB, which means there is something called gigabyte, petabyte, exabyte. 1 billion GB per day of data is traversing at ridiculously low. I think we are the lowest 3 of data rates in the world after Israel and 1 or 2 other countries. Okay, let's take a point number 35 and 36. I mentioned point 35, really important, because this has been a dream since Atal Bihari Vajpayee of the Golden Quadrilateral, that you can traverse the distance between Delhi and Mumbai within 12 hours. Okay. It's never been done. Now, of the Delhi-Mumbai Expressway, 756 kilometers is already operationalized. There are some links that needs to be still built, but 756 kilometers of this 1200 kilometer route is operationalized, is already working. Take that with point 36, that India in 2025 built 29 kilometers of new roads every day, and I can put that into context. We have now 1.5 lakh kilometers of national highways alone. Sumit.
Rishabhji, if you look on a Mumbai Expressway, the infrastructure of the country is very important, and expressways or the real highways are where you can really have the goods and services moving. With Operation Gati Shakti, where we are trying to bring down our logistic cost, we are looking at a much holistic development than one or two highways. I had the opportunity of going to Jaipur for some work recently, and from my home in Noida to Jaipur to my hotel, I reached in some 3 hours plus minus some 10-20 minutes. I mean, Noida to Jaipur, you hit one more expressway from Kalandi. From Kalandi, you land into this Mumbai expressway, which just before Jaipur, you have to enter another highway. So from my home, literally from the Kalandi Kuj red light to the hotel, which was approximately 230 kilometers, I did not 300 kilometers, I can't remember the distance correctly. I did not hit even one red light, and you were maintaining a speed of 110 kilometers. And with it, when I stopped at the Mumbai expressway for the snacks and all, they are at par with the European standards. The prices are quite reasonable, but the amenity, the facilities, the parkings, the holding base, they are what we used to see in France and Germany. They are as per that standards. And to all my beliefs, the people are very nice, and they're very well maintained. After every 25 kilometers, you have a convenio, you have all these stops, so you can stop and all that. So if earlier we used to see them in Europe and America only, now this kind of infrastructure coming in India, up and running, makes it possible. I did not take a plane to Jaipur, which I used to do most of the times. I decided to drive because
it makes a difference. I had this revelation first time the Meerut Expressway opened, and you saw that they said the speed limit is 120. We are used to speed limits coming down, 60 ka 50, 50 ka 55, 50, 40. For the first time I got the speed limit is 120. Of course, I'm not driving at 120. I was pushing it. But that's a change. Okay, I want to take a couple more points and come back to Dikshu. Let's take a point number 37. Now, India's railway network, the broad gauge network has hit 99.2%. So, near saturation of electrification, which means your diesel locomotives in the broad gauge, we don't need them anymore. They're still there, but they're being phased out. We don't need them anymore. Just in the past few weeks, Navi Mumbai Airport has launched India's largest greenfield airport. This happened just in the past few weeks. So, if we put all these infrastructure changes, Dikshu, again, the point is that it's not just one thing. It's not that one project that we are all for the next 3 years are talking about. It is one after the other, railways, highways, airports. They're all popping up around us. And I'm not even, we are still looking forward to what happens to Jewar and all these others.
Absolutely. This issue of connectivity, I think it's fundamental for the infrastructure of a country which is positioning itself as a developed nation. Without connectivity, we cannot see anything moving, whether it is on the socio-economic front, cultural front, or any other matter for that reason. And what you just mentioned about, besides that, the other modes of transport like inland waterways, that's made a remarkable development in the last few years. And the new one that's coming up is ropeways across the country. So all these, and I think those are more sustainable mobility solutions for places like Shimla and all the other Himalayan states and towns and cities that we have in the Himalayan belt and other topographies which are of that nature. Ropeways are the way for the future. So all this points out to the fact that it's a holistic development that we are looking at. We are not looking at state-specific, geography-specific, politically aligned states or not aligned states. This is about progress of the nation, development of the nation. And I think this is something really commendable. I'm glad you're doing this kind of a show, Rishabh, because day in, day out, we are plagued with, daily issues, and we forget really what in a year our country of this kind of a size and scale is actually achieving.
Okay, so let me pick up a couple of more points. The National Broadband Mission 2.0. So, the National Broadband Mission existed, which is to provide broadband connectivity to rural areas, not places where we take it for granted in urban areas. So, that's been completed. Now, National Broadband Mission 2.0, which is high speed broadband. We are talking about hundreds of megabits per second, not 10, 20, 30. Now, for most people to do UPI and emails and some video watching, 20, 30 is more than enough. But if you want to get into running a business and trading, in the financial markets, you need faster internet. So, we now be doing high speed broadband mission 2.0. Point number 40 is Vision Jam. It's India's first deep water container transshipment port. This is in Kerala. PM Modi was there for the inaugural. Sumit, let me come on this, because a massive coastline, let's be honest, but we are a very landlocked, land-looking country. We have never really considered our portways and our role in global trade. We have just taken it for granted that everybody comes to India for trade. The Europeans came, the Romans came, but getting these things done so that we are part of these trade routes, how important is it?
I think, Rishabhji, if you look at the transshipment port in Kerala, which is coming up, which will be the biggest in the India for sure, and it is just 10 nautical miles away from the Silk Route, traditional Silk Route. So what is the prediction is that once this port comes, the Singapore port, which is one of their main livelihood, and the Hong Kong ports, they are going to have a run for their money. Today, most of the routings used to happen through them. Then it will move to the other corresponding ports, and where we are just 10 nautical miles from the Silk Route, which gives us a huge advantage. It's not only our cargoes, it will become a major transit point for the world. And there are a lot of people who did not want this port to come. There were a lot of political pressures and pulls which we were seeing there. Now, developing the ports is because if you have if you are doing around exports of $770 billion right now, and you want to do it more than 1 trillion in some point of time, when you talk of exports, Rishabhji, the goods will only go through ships. They can't be loaded in aeroplanes and sent. Your software and all can still go on, these hot internet pipes. But when you talk of hardcore goods, you need ports, and you need ports which can happen those big motherships, and you need also the ports where you can handle the transit part of the thing. We had the ports, but we didn't have a deep sea transit port. So with this Kerala port coming up, this is what India needs, and in due course of time, we'll need a couple of them more. So even for the transiting and all, you don't have to route through Singapore. Today, unfortunately, if we have to go to US, we go through Dubai, we go through Qatar, we might have a stopover in Riyadh. Now, eventually, we'll be directly going to US. Why do we need to go to Qatar, Riyadh or Dubai? Likewise, for Sri roads, why need to transit through Singapore or Hong Kong and then move to wherever we want to go? So this is a big development, and this brings down your costs. This increases your efficiency, and this also brings the lead time of handling the cargo. Singapore used to pride in 4 or 6 hours we can handle the cargo, but I was reading about the Kerala port when it comes up. I think we can do it in 3.5 hours.
Yeah. So you're basically, in terms of the shipping lane, you're already on it. Okay. The entire ocean is named after you. So that's geographically, you already have the advantage. So it's just about build it and they will come. Very happy to know that we are building it. Let's take up point number 41. So we've become only the 5th country in the world to have an indigenous, which means we made it 4G stack, which is being upgraded to a 5G indigenous stack and being R&D'd for a 6G stack. Only 5 countries are able to have this technology, which is used by every single country in the world. Point number 42 is related, and we mentioned this, your mobile broadband. The median, which is the average speed for the 400 million broadband subscribers, the average speed, you know what it is? 130 Mbps now. That's the average. So of course, some will be getting better than that, some will be getting worse than that. But the average has hit 130 in 2025. 5G services, which is point 43, are available in every single state and union territory. 99% of India's landmass has now 5G connectivity. Not perfect, but we've had the fastest rollout of 5G, faster than the Europeans. And that's good news for 6G, which should be coming in a couple of years as well. So, Dikshu, again, the point being that it's the sum total of all of these that makes your life easier, your work life easier. If you have to run an office, if you don't have electricity, what do you do? If you don't have internet, what do you do? If your phone connections are not working, what do you do? For you to be successful, all of these things have to be prerequisites.
True. Rishabh, and if you see just a couple of decades back, this huge country, we used to face problems like power outages for hours together. And here we are talking about the kind of connectivity in the telecom sector you're talking about is mind-boggling. And I don't know which part of the world these kind of numbers would stand up in terms of both scale and speed at which they are getting implemented. And I think this is really a kind of empowerment that people need if they want to progress and improve their livelihood, improve their lifestyle. And this is making a marked difference. I hope that this kind of a spread and speed at which telecom is taking place, this percolates not just across the country, but even in the way people can innovatively use this as a means of improving their lifestyle, improving their economic growth. So it's not just about connecting through highways on the road, but it's about digital connections as well that makes a difference, and which is happening in this case.
At least our highways are doing what our, unfortunately, urban roads are not doing, which means you're building it once, but you're already putting in the pipelines for future installment of future wires. Here you keep digging things up. Still happening, believe it or not, in urban metros in India. Hopefully that changes. Okay, point number 44. 8,039 railway bridges were either repaired, rehabilitated, or rebuilt. Now, railway bridges, none of us give two hoots about until one collapses. And then we ask, why didn't we fix them? They were built during British Raj. So this is one of those points that we've included, not because it's one of those sexy headliners, but because if you want to prevent a tragedy, you need to fix this. Point number 45, the Border Roads Organization that does such fundamental work in such difficult places this year inaugurated 125 projects worth 5,000 crore rupees. And point number 46, as I mentioned this, India's national highway network is now in 2025 1,46,342 kilometers long. Just the national highways. I'm not talking about the road network. 1.5 lakh kilometers of national highways, Sumit, and growing rapidly.
I think Rishabh ji, after Prime Minister Modi came in, when a couple of years back we were discussing on the budget day, when he talked about $330 billion infrastructure push, a lot of people in the opposition were jumping. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to rebuild the India? Do what? Now that infrastructure push, the jobs it created, the ease of doing business, the connectivity, the things, the way our lives are run, what it has changed. No country can progress without your railways, without your highways, and without your broadband, those broadband pipes which really can carry a lot of data. Today, even this broadcast and all, we are doing it on the internet, right? I mean, 10 years back, this was unthinkable, or 11 years back, we could not think of this. Now, today, if you look at the tourism industry, if you look at the industry, if you look at the pace of moving goods, if you look at the cost of transporting goods from one place to another, how much of it has come down? Because today, the highways are there, the expressways are there, and we are building them on a constant scale. And I read somewhere, I may be wrong, they said that we have more roads than what is all put together in United States of America. Our railway networks and our road networks are much bigger than the American railway and the American road networks put together, because though America is 3 times our size, but we have built much bigger roads and better roads than them in terms of length and workability. And even when we talk of the Pradhan Mantri, Gaon, Sadak Yojana, even the last village of the country, Rishabh ji, has a metal road today. I think 97% of the work is done there. So if you talk of connectivity vis-a-vis roads, vis-a-vis internet, and vis-a-vis highways, and
okay.
even if
so let me take that point with Dikshu. Dikshu, maybe a couple of months ago I had to attend a wedding, and the invite said Dwarka Expressway, and I was thinking, oh my God, what back of beyond place, going to be so far away. Then I got onto the Dwarka Expressway, and on both sides, left and right, there were buildings 20-30 stories tall. There were curtains in the windows, clothes in the balconies. People were living there. There were shopping malls. There were kirana stores. I mean, just the urban infrastructure has developed so rapidly just because you built a fabulous highway like the Dwarka Expressway, which is completely elevated, and from the Delhi airport to reach Patodi is just 20 minutes now.
Yeah, true. The only part I would wish away from what you just mentioned is the clothes in the balcony. I wish that was not to be seen, because we designed better ways to have
solar energy is the best.
Yeah. But yes, you're right. So the moment this kind of connectivity happens, So let's compare with what was happening a few decades back. The needs, the urban pressure has always been there. Urban migration has always been an issue. But what would happen is habitation would take place and then infrastructure would follow in whatever way it could. So people have already inhabited an area and then you are trying to create roads there and connectivity. Today, we have flipped over and we are doing the way it should have always been done, which is the example like you have given of Dwarka Expressway, that create the infrastructure first and then automatically the planning that will happen, the development that will happen rather, will happen in a planned manner. And that is the right way to go. And that is the way cities will be able to prosper. The only thing I do put out as a word of caution is that we also need to reimagine the way we are creating our cities. We cannot allow for them to become urban sprawls. So that's another matter for another discussion with you, Rishabh.
I completely agree to you. And we have to, let's face it, all of us can't pack up the cities we already have. They can't vanish into thin air. Urban infrastructure is probably one of the last remaining. I can't wait to exit, and I live in a city which has very good roads compared to a lot of India, okay, in Delhi. But I can't wait to exit and get onto a highway. The problem is inside. As soon as you reach the highway, you're comfortable. So
Yes.
some things to take away. I thank Sumit and Dikshu Kukreja for having this conversation. We are doing this summary just as a reminder across the board of things that have happened because they have happened, and we have plenty of things to be agitated about, but you have plenty of things to look back and say, hey, not bad. See you in a minute. Take a break.